That it made me look like really well. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mindminx Show. I am your favorite Mindminx, and we're here with Mix Vibes Radio, as we always are. Give some shout outs like we should, so I don't forget, like I normally do, to our sponsor Absalon, located at 223 DeGraw Avenue in Teaneck, New Jersey, and to Castro Beats for this amazing beat that you hear behind us. We can't hear it because, you know, we're live,
Yeah.
but they get to hear it over in YouTube land.
Oh, cool.
So.
That's great.
But I want to welcome, a year in the making this has been, Broadway, I'm going to say it, Broadway sensation.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm putting it out in the universe.
No pressure.
No pressure. Maybe for the universe it's pressure, but
Okay.
Jess LeProtto, hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, absolutely. Well, thank you for, first of all, you're hosting us in your home.
Oh yes. Welcome to my humble abode.
I love it.
Yes.
And you have your signed posters.
I do. Yes. One of them up there.
Let's go. Let's talk about it. We got Bette Midler's Hello Dolly.
Yes.
Newsies.
Another Newsies poster
Yep.
with yours truly up there. That's myself up there.
Really?
Yes.
Aww.
That's the picture that's been seen all over the world. They've seen that mugshot everywhere.
Incredible.
Anywhere and everywhere. And then there's cats up there, and then On the Town and Carousel. So most of these are musical revivals, except for Newsies, which was a new musical based on the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like, wow. All right, so let's get right into it, and we're going to start from the beginning.
From the beginning.
The reason why I'm so enamored with you is because we hail from the same town.
Yes.
We are local to Little Falls, New Jersey.
Yes, indeed.
How the heck did okay, so at least two pretty cool people came from Little Falls.
Oh yeah.
So
We made it through. We got by. We got by.
How did okay, so we were talking about this before. I was reading an interview that you had done, and it wasn't you who started dancing in your family. It was actually your sister, and you were at one of her practices, rehearsals.
Yeah, one of her classes.
One of her classes, waiting
Yes.
with your mom, and it was adorable because I'm the person, when I read something, I like visualize it. So I see you, reading what you're saying, and I can see you in my head, like laying on the floor, literally peering underneath the crack of the door, watching, and I thought that was the most adorable thing. So that's how it all started?
That's how it all started. I'm the youngest of three, so my sister is the middle child. I have an older brother as well, but I'm the baby. So naturally, as the baby, I was always tagging along with my folks to pick up my other siblings from, my brother when he did some sports growing up, and then my sister obviously studied dance growing up. So I always tagged along with my parents to go pick them up and drop them off. And one of them was going to drop off or pick up my sister from dance class, and I would just go with my mom to the studio, the local studio in Little Falls. And
Wait, the one on Stevens Ave?
That's right, for dancers only.
I remember.
For dancers only. And that's where I first kind of saw my first exposure to dance classes, and just, what is this? My parents did try to get my older brother interested, but he was like, nah, I'm good. He's a musician, actually, so he's in another realm.
I did see that in an interview that just didn't take for him.
No, it just did not hit the same way. But for me, it did. There was a lot of curiosity at a very young age. And I used to crawl on the floor, and there was always a crack of the door at the bottom of the door that had a space so you can look through and see what class was going on because the door was closed. So I was like, oh, what's going on in there? And then, that's where I saw my sister taking class. And my parents were like, well, if it didn't work for Anthony, my older brother, let's try it with Jess and see if it works. And it turns out it did.
And this was at 5.
3.
3, it was even younger.
Yes, 3.
Aw, so that was really adorable.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me there's a picture of that somewhere.
Well, maybe not of that moment, but there are definitely a lot of photos from my earlier, days when I just started taking classes. And there's one particular where my very first dance recital, my sister obviously was already a couple years into it then, but this was my very first one. And of course, so you do the recital, and then there's always kind of like, okay, after the recital, there's like, people can stand and do photos, in front of a backdrop and stuff, in a nice like dance position or so. No, I was just like not interested, crying the whole thing.
Aww.
I was wearing a cowboy costume because in the dance recital, my one number was a group number. It was like a basic tap number to "Don't Let Your Boys Grow Up to Be Cowboys" or things like that. Yeah, I think that's the song. And so I was in like a red Woody outfit basically, and I was crying, and my sister's in like a nice like little lyrical costume, and we're supposed to be paired together for this picture. And I can't even open my eyes for how much I'm crying.
Aww.
So there's a picture of me just like sobbing. Just as a baby. And then they were trying to get me to open my eyes, and they were like, oh, come on, Jess, open your eyes. And I'm like, oh, just crying.
Is there VHS of these?
There's definitely VHSs of some of those performances. Oh yes, they are crown jewels. They are precious cargo.
I could just imagine. Well, it just speaks volumes of the kind of era that we grew up in, a little small town feel.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot, because there's something charming about, these, little towns, like little balls, to say literally. But there's something special to where a lot of potential and a lot of just, focus and drive and, something to want to aspire to for me. And obviously at a very early age, there was something to it to where I just kept continuing to pursue it, or because I think I became more and more comfortable as I got older, and I certainly became more of an entertainer from a very early age.
But I feel like, based on your interviews, it's kind of runs your, because you said your dad was an actor also.
He was. He actually graduated from the Academy of Dramatic Arts back in the day, and then he pursued a career. He ventured out west to LA and pursued his career there. In fact, obviously his biggest credit was that he was one of Pat Birch's, the choreographer, in the bigger ensemble of the film Grease. So he's in Grease, and there's great.
Grease.
Oh yeah. So and Pat Birch had a small corps and the bigger company corps, and my dad was a part of the bigger company of ensemble dancers. And there are quite a few moments to where you can kind of peek and see where he is and pick him out and like, oh, there he is.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Especially in the dance scene, so you have to go back.
Okay.
Just like him, and like it's like like tan dress pants, suit pants, and then it's like a maroon jacket, and then he's got the coolest like slick back pompadour you've ever seen. It's hilarious.
Oh my god.
It's hilarious.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's wild.
Well, it's funny that you said, because we literally just talked about Grease, because like I am, I can't quote movies very well. One that I can quote from
That's the one.
Is Grease.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, like that was the film that everyone wanted to watch all the time growing up, obviously because my dad was in it. But it's also just, it was a good movie for us to grow up to. And like, for me, if it wasn't theater per se, as far as musicals, it was always movie musicals.
Okay.
So it was definitely Sing in the Rain, it was West Side Story, and it was Grease primarily. So those three films were kind of like, they set the whole tone for me, the foundation.
So when you were doing your dance classes there, so you obviously did tap.
I did tap, I did jazz, I did ballet. Obviously when you're very young, you basically do basic ballet and basic tap for the most part. And as you get older, you start to kind of,
hone in on what you want to. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you feel like having all of those helped even though you specialize now more like in that jazz, like.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely helped. They definitely helped when I was in later years, preparing to like pursue like an actual career, and then later on pursue dance as well when it came to classes like in ballroom and hip hop and all that stuff too. So, and aside from just taking classes at for dancers only in Little Falls, I also took classes outside. I went to Broadway Dance Center, went to Steps here in New York, and I really just kind of became a sponge from a very, back in like high school and such. But yeah.
Oh, speaking of high school, well, let's wait. Let's not get to high school yet. So, but and I love this because again, I grew up in the town. So you went to Holy Angels. We started talking about this earlier.
Yes, I did.
So your parents did not trust school one for you, huh?
Not right away, because all three of us in the family, my two siblings and I, we all went to Holy Angels, and I was there from kindergarten to 4th grade, and then I left to go to school fifth grade.
Okay.
And it was great and I grew up obviously going to church, and then later on I became a cantor, and I sang in church as well. So that was just great.
When I read that, I was like, oh, I wonder if it's at Holy Angels or did you go to a different?
Yeah, Holy Angels. And but obviously, one thing that I still give Holy Angels credit, for a lot of things that I learned there was penmanship and definitely cursive handwriting. I still credit, I'm like, somehow or other I still maintained my cursive handwriting, because I don't really teach that a lot in school.
No, not anymore.
So I'm very grateful that I have some sort of knowledge or have maintained my cursive handwriting skills. But then I also, occasionally, Holy Angels used to do, assemblies or something like that, so sometimes I would get to sing. One time there was some type of talent show assembly, and I got to lip sync to Footloose by Kenny Loggins, of course. And it was me in a white t-shirt and jeans, and a green Yankees hat or cap or something like that. But yeah, so obviously I got to, perform in those, in those situations and settings as well.
So when did the singing come in, though? It was still very young as well.
Still very young. I think between either 5 or 6 years old, I started to take voice lessons. I think because my parents definitely saw that there was more to just dance that I seemed to kind of enjoy. I enjoyed kind of performing or being, out on stage. In fact, back in the day, we were just having dinner with some family friends of ours, and they were always talking about how growing up I used to always want to perform for all my family and friends at family functions and stuff like that at the house. But the best part about it was that I would say, Dad, I'm not going out there unless you introduce me.
Oh.
Yes, that was the one wrinkle. I'm like, nope, that's my one request. That's the one thing. And then so that was basically where I decided to, this will be fun, and my parents were like, let's give voice lessons a try. So I trained locally. For a little bit, and then I started to venture out into the city and started taking voice lessons here too.
Well, so at the ripe old age of how old were you when you were on stage with Hugh Jackman?
Oh, Hugh Jackman. That was.
So we can't use that for the game because that would
Oh no. Well, Hugh Jackman, yes. So that was when I was 11 years old.
Oh, it was older. Okay.
So I was older, and by that point, I had already kind of. Well, a lot of things were happening. These are all, formative years, kind of, getting into, somewhat of a start of a career from a very early age. I was doing a lot of stuff locally as far as performing, as far as singing contests. I was also on my competitive dance team for dancers only.
Right.
So I was always on stage, be it wherever the setting was.
Okay.
And for a contest, for a competition, because in competition dance, you get to perform different styles, you get to perform different kinds of numbers as far as solos and duets and trios and groups and so forth. So I was always doing something. My parents always made sure that I was, occupying, and being able to perform as much as often.
God bless them. That's a lot of their time as well.
That's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of commitment, but they knew that we loved it, as my sister and I.
Good.
So, and they knew that we enjoyed it, 2 definitely wanted to continue doing it because we liked it so much. And for me personally, they noticed that, this is probably his,
Your calling.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you know how many, because not for nothing is apparently something I say often, I may trademark it. But not for nothing, this kind of an industry is not something that many practical parents would be like, this is a hobby. You don't want to.
Yeah.
So God bless them for really seeing that and supporting that.
There's a lot to this business that, that you learn on the fly, that you kind of learn, as you go along. So when you talk about The Boy from Oz, that's one of those scenarios. It's when I was around 10 or 11, yeah. I made my debut when I was 11 in the show. But prior to that, and obviously I was auditioning at that time too, so I was always going in for stuff. I went in for Les Miserables, the original production as Gavroche, like 6 times, never booked it, never got the part. I tried out for different productions of 9, which was the revival with Antonio Banderas. Made it to the final callbacks, didn't get it. I tried out for Tarzan, the Disney theatrical production of Tarzan. Made it to the final callbacks there, didn't get it.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of rejection, and obviously that's what you learn on the fly too, is that 99% of it, as many people know, is rejection. That's just part of the game. So when it came to The Boy from Oz, I tried out originally I wanted to try out, but I was told by a former agent of mine at the time that said they're looking for blonde hair young child actors. I'm like, oh, well, naturally I'm not that. So I'm like, okay, let's pass on that. And then cut to when I saw the show perform a number on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And the child actor, Mitchell David Federin, who was not blonde hair, did his big number. So I was like, I think I definitely have a shot at least going in for, if they have another opening for something for that show.
Wait, this is what you're thinking at 10, 11.
Well, definitely not at me, but for my parents too.
Okay.
My parents are like, oh, Jess,
you can do this.
Yeah, we can do this. And then it just so happened to be that they were looking for a vacation swing for that role. It was the role of young Peter Allen in the show because it's the story about his life, the famous cabaret singer and singer-songwriter Peter Allen that Hugh Jackman played. So they were looking for vacation swings, which means that obviously Mitchell David Federin or PJ Verhulst, who was his swing, his understudy, if one of them was on vacation for a week, I would come in and I would just be on standby in case, either PJ or Mitchell were out.
Okay.
So that's what happened. So I went into audition for it, and they were obviously more than enthusiastic about it. They were like, "Oh, yep," and I got the part, got a vacation swing for that, and I did 2 stints in it because they were temporary contracts. So I did one for 2 weeks, and that was like in the month of February when I was 11, and then I came back that summer and I made my Broadway debut. I got to appear on stage, and it was
at 11, the ripe old age of 11.
Ripe old age, and it was great because I had 40 members of my family and friends attend the show, and it was obviously an amazing experience. But the one thing that I always treasure is that, and this is what I still see to this day when it comes to headliners and leads of shows that are so generous with their gift and being able to spotlight other people aside from themselves. And the show was at Hugh Jackman. We had our company bow. This was all choreographed. Curtain comes down, and then he gestures to the stagehand who's operating the curtain to hoist it back up one more time, and then he pushes this little 11-year-old downstage for one more final bow, just to kind of give, one more, applause worth for, a vacation swing. And I still see it to this day. People who I've worked with, who are understudies, and then like big headliners who are in these shows, gesturing and like you lead the final bow. It's just one of those lovely things that still exists today.
Well, and you still remember that.
Oh yeah.
That's a beautiful memory.
Yeah.
And that stood out. And when I tell you the hours that I did research on you, reading these articles, that stood out to me.
Oh yeah. I mean, like that really inspired me to just. I knew that from then on, like, you know what? A moment like this, I should follow through. And my parents did too. They had a lot of faith and belief in me too. So that really helped me forward through my career moving on. And then also the cool thing about working at a young age or starting at a young age, is that there are a lot of other talented kids as well that I would share the stage with, So a lot of people from my peer group that I grew up with are still performing. They're still working professionally. Some have decided to transition out and just do other things that are just as rewarding. But it's crazy to know that there are so many kids that were just more talented than I am, that just I got to learn from and share the stage with too. So
And you're still friendly with them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. It's great. It's a great treat to kind of meet kids along the way, and because their parents have the same mindset too. Like, you know what, I noticed something in my child that I know definitely needs to be expressed in a much bigger platform.
And nurtured.
Yeah,
I love
nurtured.
that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. All right, so from there, when did, because not for nothing, who under 18 gets to say, because Hello Dolly was also, that was before, were you an adult yet, or you were still a child?
I was adult. So
You were,
then
okay.
pretty much most of these shows here, Newsies and on, I was 19.
You were older.
I started, so Newsies I was 19, and then all these shows that have followed after.
All right, so then so before we get to that, because then that was post So You Think You Can Dance.
That's right. That's right.
So what transpired after The Boy from Oz?
Well, after that, because I did 3 shows prior to turning 18 that I did on Broadway. I did The Boy from Oz, of course, and then I did, and then I did 2 seasons of the Broadway Christmas show, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Okay.
So I got to do that, and
What did you? How was that?
That was fun because that was, first of all, any person who gets offered to do like a Christmas show, especially on Broadway, do it. Because 1, obviously it's a Broadway credit, but 2, it's just a fun time of the year to do to do a show that's centered around the holidays. It's just a good time because everyone's in like a nice jolly spirit. It's a great reason to just be on a Broadway stage. Yeah, to feel a good time of the year. And the plus to that was that there were 24 kids in the show. So there was a lot of us.
God bless whoever the adult was handling you guys.
Exactly. Actually, to this day, I'm working with an actor right now. His name is Michael McCormick, and I've done 3 shows with him. So this is our 3rd, and then I did Hello Dolly, and then the very first one was How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and he was one of the adult actors in the show. And he's seen me from obviously when I was 13, 14 to 30.
Those formidable years.
He's really seen me, exactly. He's seen me, evolve into a crazy man. But it's amazing. It's amazing how small this community is. So after How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I did Bye Bye Birdie, which I was in high school. And that was and the fun thing about all these shows, especially for the Grinch and Bye Bye Birdie, was that they were limited runs, because Roundabout produced Bye Bye Birdie, and that was about a less than 6-month run of a show. So I knew that there was an end date. So there was always, and then I knew that because I was also in high school, and that would also kind of factor into how I balanced education and school along with that.
Which, and I promised my sister I would ask.
Yes.
How did you balance that out?
A lot of people have that question about how, when it comes to child actors, how they kind of manage or juggle school or education. And the reason being is that when it comes to, or I can only speak from a theatrical standpoint, is that anytime that we were working or rehearsing during the school year, and it took us away from, the regular school hours, there was On Location Education, which was a company that specialized in tutoring. So I always worked with them because then the teachers were fantastic, of course. And they would coincide, and they would obviously communicate with the schools and my teachers to know which,
So PV was cooperative and...
and more so for School 1. School 1
oh, right,
in Little Falls, because How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I was still in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool, though. That's cool to know.
So, and not just me, a lot of the kids as well, because we were all under 18. We were we hadn't graduated high school. So we all had to, figure out, how to balance it out. Of course, our parents were very communicative, and they were, on board with it as well. So, and it was important for, all of our parents, my parents especially, that, that their children stayed as up to date with education and with school and subjects and stuff too. So yeah, so tutoring, especially during those crazy times, and then when a show settles, when you just do an 8-show week schedule, yes, you actually get to go back to school.
What? And how was that transition back?
Well, because if you're already in school and then you step away from it for a while and you go back to it, it's like, it's like putting on an old pair of shoes. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah,
you're okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously when students and peers of yours that don't see you for a second or two get to see you after that, you're like, oh, and they're like, how's it going out there? Like they're just as curious as anyone else would be, because they're regular kids and they're just kind of like, yeah.
Oh, so then you had nice ones.
Yeah, there were. I mean, there were definitely some, but there are always going to be complications with kids, especially.
Oh, he put it nice.
Well, there are, because there's a lot of because in my time, I mean, I only got to see it and experience it very little, but even still, like even those few moments that did exist or that did happen to me, it did leave an impact. So I mean,
Fuckers.
when I was in 7th grade, and obviously anytime that I wasn't working professionally, I was doing stuff at my school, especially at School 1. So I was in 7th grade and we were doing a production of Singing in the Rain. I auditioned. I received the role. I won the role of Don Lockwood, obviously, for that's Gene Kelly's role from the movie. And there was another student who will stay nameless.
Voldemort. We'll call him Voldemort.
Yeah. Who decided to create a fake MySpace account. This is when MySpace was obviously in its heyday. And it was all this false, information about me that got out, of course, because it was the early age of social media and social networking. And we actually printed it out, and my parents were, of course upset. I mean, I experienced it, but I have to say, maybe it left an impact, but not as much. I think I was just kind of I think it was like one ear and out the other kind of feel.
Good for you.
Yeah. Well, it was hard to kind of, wrap your head around it, especially when you're so young.
Yeah.
Just kind of like,
why is this happening?
I could say, and maybe my parents would agree, there was a sense of oblivion that I probably had as well. Just being like, it happened, and it's one thing to kind of dwell on it. I mean, I definitely dwell a lot on things if it's something that I feel bad about, but then my parents are just kind of like, you taught yourself. Yeah, well, you taught yourself. Well, it was like you taught yourself back at an early age that you learned just how to put it one.
Good for you.
Go in one ear and out the other. So, and this was a credit to my principal at the time, Mr. Mead.
Oh, I remember Mr. Mead.
Mr. Mead.
Oh my gosh,
and I'll
still
tell
there.
you,
Dear Lord.
this is a great man. And I'll tell you exactly why. So when this moment happened, when this happened to me, Mr. Mead obviously got wind of it. He had heard about it, and he was going to do everything that he could to find out who did this, because obviously this was something that happened locally. This was obviously something that happened with a student who was already attending the school, and it was like an internal investigation. He went to every student, he went to every class, he went to every teacher, and he really defended me, and he really supported me.
Wow.
And that I am indebted to him for that.
Oh, shout out to Mr. Mead.
Yes,
wow.
because what he did for me at that early age, that was an amazing sign of support from a loyal, amazing human being. So I'm indebted to him.
Oh, well, definitely shout out. He was actually
Yes.
principal when I went to school there.
Yeah.
I graduated in 1989.
Okay.
So he was there for a very long time.
He was amazing. He was amazing. He was just a wonderful man, a great principal, and it was to be led and to have him kind of help us out in that regard was truly amazing.
I'm impressed with that. I'm
Yeah.
super impressed with that.
Yeah.
Because we live in a very cliquey, we have a very small town, so it's very cliquey. It's very easy to fall either on the good side of the clique or the bad side of the clique.
Right.
So it's nice to hear that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we're getting through school. We got through high school. By the way, shout out to PV High School.
Yes.
What did you think of their arts program? When you were
enrolled, when I
yeah.
went there, well, I was excited because I had seen a couple shows of theirs already, and I was excited to go because they also had a summer program. So I was like, wow, they have a lot of exposure for people and a lot of opportunities for people to perform and just do stuff and just do shows. And I had just graduated from school one. I mean, I had only done one production of Singing in the Rain there, as far as from a school standpoint. And then I got to perform in their summer shows. I did almost all their summer shows when I was there. I did all my spring musicals. I did 2 fall plays. So I was always busy
Involved,
there.
yeah.
I was always busy. And this also coincided and balanced with a professional career as well. So those shows like The Grinch and Bye Bye Birdie. Bye Bye Birdie, I was a junior in high school.
Wow.
So in any case that I wasn't working professionally, I was always busy, or I was always hands-on or helping out, not just in the musical sense, concert band, concert choir, anything else that was extracurricular. I was always
And I
busy.
remember reading that really almost worked out as like living practice as well.
Oh yeah,
right.
And that was the same because I was also dancing competitively too at that time too. So I was always on stage. I was always performing, be it if it was competition or school play or school musical. I was always performing.
Yeah.
I was always getting some type of crack at in another.
So if you weren't working, you were still honing your.
Oh yeah. And I had great teachers along the way. And I had, I remember I had Lisa Weber back at school one.
Oh my God, I remember Miss Weber.
Yes, Miss Galupka.
Wow.
Yes,
Oh my God.
who was amazing, who directed
can't
Singing in the Rain
remember.
back then.
Wow.
And then I had Jeff Budd and Jen Shu, who I'm still friends with, who runs the drama club today, who's the president of the drama club. Shout out to Jen Shu. I had amazing teachers. That I had Ray Frash, I had Mike DeLucia, who's still at PV, Karen Atavian, who just retired, theater director. So I was in tremendous hands.
I recognize the last name DeLucia. I don't know.
Yes,
if I-
DeLucia, yes, he's still there. He's the music director at PV. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. But everyone there was just so welcoming. And first of all, hilarious. And very great. And just like so wonderful and personable and just, great to work with. Just to kind of, just to meet and to collaborate with and, and to learn from too. So I was always performing. I was always learning in that regard. So.
Did you ever help out with a girls show?
I did help out with the girls' show, but it was one of them. It was always Green Dance because obviously I knew a lot of the girls who were
Little
involved.
Falls.
Yes, exactly.
How can we
So
be
I knew
white?
I knew a lot of the girls from Green Dance, and one year their theme was Tarzan,
Okay.
and they needed help with their music cutting. So I'm like, I'm kind of honored to kind of be.
Aw, I know that is an honor.
But it was kind of cool. Just be like, okay, wow, sure, yeah, I'll help out. This sounds like fun. And it was
If you guys don't know what girl show is, go Google it. Actually,
Oh.
another local, Kyle Luker, made a wonderful documentary
Yes.
on girl shows.
Yeah, it is a one of a kind experience. That's for sure.
I got to actually attend once in my entire life.
Oh yeah, but it was always a kick to watch it on PVTV.
Yeah. PVTV, my God.
Because it was like, I remember if I wasn't there watching it live in action, I'd be watching it
On PVTV.
on PVTV. That's basically what happened.
Those kids are so cute too, and they're announcing and.
Oh, it's hilarious. I'm like, it's hilarious and it's exhilarating and it's like a whirlwind. It's like, and one thing about that is that it is probably the highest decibel level I have ever heard in my whole life. I don't think I've heard people scream as high or as loud, except for that gymnasium.
My house is right by the rec center, and I'm pretty sure I could hear
From there.
from there.
Oh yeah. Only a couple miles away, but still, the residence still lingers.
Oh my God, that's so much
Oh
fun.
yeah.
But you gotta
PV
get,
was great.
yeah, and you have to give the girls the dedication, the amount of dedication
Yeah.
and support that they get. Like we'd be in the gym at the rec center, and they'd be upstairs with the windows taped off.
Yes.
Like
yes.
the prep, like I'm telling you, gotta check
It's
it.
well, it was like all those things that happened during PV. They were blessings because it kept me it kept me occupied, it kept me busy, it kept me engaged in what I like to do. And it kept me interested in actually get me involved in other realms that maybe I didn't think I saw for myself, you know, as far as like, and like these are like things that I sort of specialize in now. Like I still do music cuts for my sister who choreographs now and stuff. So all that stuff kind of like started from like PV or earlier on too. So yeah,
I think that's really cool.
It's wild.
So when you were finally of age and you graduated PV.
Yes.
That's when you tried out for you. So you think you can
That's
dance.
exactly. So I turned 18, so this was my senior year. And the initial auditions were in Brooklyn, New York in November of my senior year. So I had a whole year, the rest of my senior year to go. So then that happened, and then I advanced to the Vegas week, which were the callbacks.
Okay.
For lack of a better word. And that was in April. And then the show happened, and I went out to LA in like May. And in fact, yes, I did graduate.
I was going to say, did you miss your graduation?
Yes, I did graduate, but I did miss my graduation.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
wait,
I did.
Is that bittersweet?
Well, it seemed to kind of be in my cards, and I'll tell you why. So we'll get to it later on, but I went to Pace University too, and I went part-time.
I love that story, by the way.
Yes, and I graduated at the height of the pandemic in 2020. And of course, at that time, everything was very isolated, so there was no graduation ceremony there too.
Oh, so you didn't get any graduation.
You know what? You know, I have to say, it's just written in the card. It's just written in the stars. It's my hand. You know, what are you gonna do?
Okay. Yeah.
But that was when I was on the show. So and then that was the summer of a lifetime. I'll tell you that much. For a young 18-year-old to be on that show.
I would say so.
Yeah, it was wild.
I'm over here so I love that show.
Oh, you did.
I would watch that show, and I literally, I think it was, because in 2008, you know, most of the world got laid off. I did too. I was fine though, because I was pregnant with my youngest. So I got to be home.
Yeah.
So I think I was still not working when
you got hooked onto the show.
Oh my gosh! So I'm like watching this religiously, and you know that when season 8 happened, which is the season that you were on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, they do the little bios or whatever, and they're talking with you, and I'm like, he's from Little Falls, and I'm like, and this is like, you know, social media, like Facebook is just, you know, starting to get popular.
And Twitter too. Oh yeah, I was all over the place.
I'm still, the Twitter is still not my thing, but but the Facebook, you know, I was at that point still, you know, I was still talking about myself in third person. It's so funny to look at those, but I'm like, oh my God, there's somebody from Little Falls, and they're like, who? And I'm like, Jess LeProtto.
Oh yeah. We were saying before, like, I've heard many variations of my name. And obviously many people assume that my name ends with an E, as Jessie, instead of just Jess. But that is my God-given name, that is on my certificate, it's just Jess. That is my name.
Just Jess.
Just Jess.
You should hashtag that, just Jess.
I will. In fact, actually, not to spoil anything, but, you know, during the pandemic, I kind of, you know, found a different creative route as more from a songwriting standpoint. So I wrote a collection of songs, and maybe I'll put them together and name the album Just Jess.
Just Jess. Ooh, we got it on recording here.
You got it there.
So we have you dancing on. So by the way, I can watch you dance like I did last night. It's like 12:30 at night, and I'm watching your Night Fly and I'm like,
oh yeah.
I love watching you dance.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and by the way, I have it out loud. It's 12:30 at night. Everybody's trying to sleep, and I have my TV out fucking loud as hell. But I do. I enjoy. So, and as a matter of fact, you have the book right there.
I do, yeah.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah. I was just away for a few days, a few personal days for the Easter weekend, so I was able to take off from work, and I had some light reading to read on the beach.
There you go. Oh, good for you.
Yes.
But I digress. But so you're on this show, and you get to be. Wait, I have notes from that. I don't want to. I do that a lot. Hold on. No, see ya. So homeschooled. Yep, we got all the notes here. All right. So the experience on. This is really me. I've self-diagnosed ADD. Right. So how was the experience on So You Think You Could Dance, like with the other dancers, like especially because, you know, I don't know how much experience the other dancers that were in the competition with you had, but like being able to dance with them and compete with them, because it wasn't just you solo dancing by yourself. You would be dancing with other.
Oh yeah. I mean, like we were all the whole top 20. Like you could not have picked a more, you know, multifaceted, you know, top 20. Because we all came from different walks of life. We all had different backgrounds. Some came from dance competitive backgrounds, others didn't. Others, there were some that were like hip hop, you know, centric, you know, and so like, you know, who specialized in different things, who came from a whole different world of, you know, competition and such. So when you put all those people together in like one melting pot of a reality dance competition show, that's what makes the show special. And like they say it every year, but you know, people always ask like, oh, what's new? What's gonna be new about the season? And then the producer Jeff Thacker always says, and he's right too. He's like, well, it's a new bunch of dancers. So with that, they set the template. They set the foundation for the season because they are really, you know, the core. They are really at the core of the whole show because it's them that America gets to follow and gets to appreciate and adore.
100% agree.
So they really kind of lead the way as far as, you know, how the show, you know, progresses through the summer as far as the competition, and then to learn, and not only to learn from the choreographers and different styles that I was not necessarily suited for, or you know, or didn't really know necessarily, but to also learn from my fellow dancers, my fellow contestants as well, and to learn about them, how they got to where they are now. Why they're here, why they do it, why they continue to do it, and everyone has the same appreciation because they love to do it. So, but it was one of those experiences that I've only had a couple of them in my lifetime, to where I call it like an everything experience. It was like, it was exciting, it was anxious, it was challenging, it was heartbreaking, it was stressful, it was tear-jerking, it was all over the place. It hit every emotion you could ever think of.
I love it.
So it's like you wrap if you think of every emotion that you know that you can think of, that's what happened during that time.
With a bow right on top.
With a bow right on top.
Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah, and like also because I was 18, you know, you're barely an adult.
Yeah.
You're barely an adult, so you're learning things along the way that probably are like, wow, I'm learning about things that, you know.
Oh my god, I'm starting to cry. Just I'm such a freaking like baby when it comes to shit like that.
Oh yeah, I mean like it was intense. It was intense for all the reasons. It was intense for all the right reasons. It was intense for all the positive. It was intense for all the challenging. Like it was hard work.
At 18.
At 18.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had people who were 18 and we had people who were 30.
Wow.
So the experience, and like obviously for that kind of show, the experience of performing and competing in a show when you're 18 is obviously a little different than when you're 30 because you lived a little bit more.
Yeah, maturity is. But I don't even want to say maturity because like one of the very first notes that I wrote, and I'm going to show you so you know I'm not bullshitting you. Right there, you have an old soul, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're born in, I don't know if you want me to say it out loud, but you know, you're born in 1992 and you have a fucking old soul. You do.
Well, I thought about it lately. Like I think there are two different kinds of people because obviously this America is definitely filled with a lot of nostalgia. We love a lot of things that we grow up with that we have a certain attachment towards, and obviously there are people who that enjoy living it. As far as like I always see people who are like living like in 50s outfits and stuff like that. I'm an eternal old soul. I enjoy reading things. I like older books. I like older music. I like older theater. I love just all that stuff. And it's not to take a dig at the stuff that's coming out now, but it's only to just appreciate the stuff that was there. And there's so much nuance. There's so much there that I appreciate. I appreciate older choreography and stuff like that, and obviously movie musicals in the sense. But yeah, I mean like that's my bread and butter. I love that stuff. And it was also attributed because my mom and my dad, of course. My dad, and this is all about music too, not even necessarily about theater. My dad got me hooked up on doo-wop and his childhood and what he loved growing up. My mom grew up obviously through the 70s, so she loved Eric Clapton, she loved Billy Joel, she loved Boz Scaggs, she loved Doobie Brothers. So that in itself created a foundation for me that I loved. I loved. And my grandparents, obviously, they were big Sinatra fans. So there was obviously all that music all over the household too.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And even on my phone today.
What do you got?
Well, I during the pandemic, obviously, you know, everyone was like, you know, online shopping nonstop. So one of the things that I discovered was there's a great clothing brand called New York or Nowhere.
Okay.
And they have different things online, and one of them is they had, and I have a bunch of their apparel for this, but it was this phrase which says New York Old Soul.
Oh, wow!
New
See,
York Old Soul. So I was just kind of like, that kind of seems like my thing. So
100%.
So shout out to New York or Nowhere for providing that saying, because I was just like, that kind of basically sums me up.
100% it does.
Yeah.
It really does. Aw, I love that. I love that.
I'm really basically a 70-year-old man in a 30-year-old's body.
There you go. Love it.
Oh my god. But yeah, that's about it.
How are we doing on time? Because I still got a lot more to talk about. Okay, we're good? 15. We got okay. All right. So we're gonna have to like speed this up. All right. So I wanted to, we talked about that. So what was it like with the judges? Like, again, you're only 18 years old and you had some like, you know, big names that were judging you.
Yeah. But they were all wonderful. I mean, obviously you don't have close interaction with them.
Okay.
But an exchange here and there to where obviously they're appreciative of your work and what you do on the show. And it's amazing, like I still see people who I met on that show outside of it. So like I still see Nigel Lithgow here and there on occasions.
Oh my God.
I still see
I still see
Jesse
Nigel on
Ferguson,
occasion.
who was a guest judge on the show.
right.
Neil Patrick Harris, Kristen Chenoweth, who else? Rob Marshall, who was amazing. And obviously, you have to remember all the amazing choreographers I got to work with on that show. And not, like, because you get to do a lot of group choreo, but you also get to do a lot of duets and stuff. So that was Nappy Tabs, that was Sonia Taya, that was Tony Melody, that was Chris Scott, there was Tyce DiOrio, Stacey Tukey.
Wow. I do remember these names.
I'm naming
Dear
these names and I don't
Lord.
want to forget anymore because
No,
they're all amazing. They're all amazing.
It's funny, I didn't remember any of them, but as soon as you said their names, I see their faces in my head.
I will single out one, and it was this person that I still have a great working relationship to this day, and it's Josh Bergasse. Josh Bergasse is an Emmy-winning choreographer who choreographed Smash, and I did On the Town with him, and it was his first time on the show when I was on the show. So we got to obviously go through kind of the same, you know, experience, if whatnot. And to this day, that he is the one choreographer that, of all the choreographers I worked with, he and I have had a great working relationship. I've done a bunch of stuff for him outside of just Broadway productions and stuff, and I'll always be grateful for his encouragement, and I'm blessed to know him.
Oh,
he's a wonderful man. It's great.
That's an awesome connection to have made.
Yeah.
If the only one.
Yeah.
Now I do want to ask maybe a touchy question, only because it's and it just came to my mind now. How did it affect you hearing about what happened with Twitch?
Oh, well, I had a few interactions with Twitch, not many on a personal note, but just from the realm of just sytycd dance communications. And for when I was able to, you know, appreciate was that he was a wonderful person just to say hello. Like, for anyone who just said hello who's a fan, he could make you feel like you were $1 million. That was just him. That's an it factor. That's a gift that very few people have, and he's one of them. So even in a short exchange of just a few words, some small talk, some just, you know, a little chit chat, you know, he was very grateful and appreciative, and you know, and we kind of went through the same thing as a whole collectively in the dance community when it came to another sytycd dance alumni, Danny Tidwell, who was on season 3.
Oh gosh.
And when we lost him, that was the same thing too. And like, I never met Danny Tidwell, but for what because obviously as a fan of the show before I was even on the show, and you look for role models. You look for people to kind of, use as your pinpoint, as your gateway, as your reference point. And not just Danny, but people who I know to this day, Teddy Forrence, Neil Haskell. There are so many wonderful male dancers who I identified and related to. Al Katafi, one of my dear friends, Al Blackstone, who was a great mentor and teacher for me. So you look for those people, and Danny was that for me, even though I never met him. Mm-hmm. And for Twitch, it was just to kind of learn from him, because obviously he had such persona and such charm and such charisma. Not just to mention his technique was flawless as an artist.
Dancer, yeah.
I don't even say hip hop dancer.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that hip hop was his bread and butter, but he was an artist.
Yeah.
And he was just a wonderful spirit that we lost too soon.
I think the saddest, to be honest, for me, was that so many people didn't realize that he was a dancer.
Yeah.
So many people thought that he was a DJ for Ellen.
Yeah, which is in some case, I know, but in some case, it's a credit to him to know that he was able to reach across that threshold, reach across to the audience out there, the broad audience, the commercial audience, for something else other than dance.
Yeah.
That was a gift to him, not just as a dancer, but as a person. Okay. Which obviously came
so
from his soul.
It wasn't. I thought, because when I heard that, I was like, wow, do you think that affected him negatively? That his
yeah, I wonder that too.
Lost.
But I know that is it. When you're pigeonholed as one thing, it's very hard to kind of reach to a different realm, reach to where you want to go. Okay. And for him, when I saw that he was doing that, I'm like, well, what a great opportunity to kind of reach to an audience that probably doesn't know him as a dancer. Okay. They can know him as a person. They can know him as a new person in their regular lives, in their daily lives. Okay.
That's a good way of looking at it, because I didn't realize it could.
There was a great, and I passed by it a bunch of times when it was up, because they had there's the Gap store in Times Square, and on my way to work when I go to the show, they have there was a picture of Twitch, as he had done a photo shoot with Gap, and they said in loving memory of our friend Twitch. I was like, I mean, I did not know him personally, I did not know him well, but in the few incidents and moments that I had with him, he was a delightful human being.
That hit hard, and I didn't know him at all. But you're right. He did give off that very genuine, personable. So thank you for answering that. So, all right, back to you. Okay. So I said I found my post from July. Okay. All right. Now let's get back to Firefly before we get kicked off.
Oh, the Nightfly.
Nightfly. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
So so we did this. You created this short. It was only like 16 minutes, 16 and a half.
I did, yeah.
And if anybody hasn't seen it, you can find it on YouTube.
Yes.
It was delightful 16 and a half minutes. I loved it. Wait, so my favorite part is I start watching this last night, right? And I'm looking at so you set the frame and you pan in on a house. And I'm like, the first question I asked you, I was like, is that house in Lotus?
Yes.
I love it.
Well, for those who are Steely Dan fans out there, Donald Fagen, who is one of the co-founders of Steely Dan, he ventured out and did a solo album. His very first effort was an album called The Nightfly, which was a semi-autobiographical album about his upbringing in Passaic, New Jersey, then into the suburbs. And obviously I identified with that because I grew up in the suburbs as well. And obviously I love his music. And then it was a pandemic project, if you could say, that I was like, oh, this might be fun, because before the pandemic began, I had found the sheet music to that album, and I just wanted to just pluck them out, because I play instruments as well. I play piano and drums. So I plucked it out, and I was like, oh, I kind of sound pretty good. And throughout the pandemic, I invested in recording equipment and found a concept to where I could musically put these songs together. And then I was like, you know what, there's more to it. So why don't we just do a little short film?
Yeah, you did.
And it was a great treat to just kind of, spend 5 days with Blake Selesnikar, a wonderful friend and videographer, and my friend Sky Maddox, who was a great dancer who played Ruby, in reference to Ruby Baby. And ideally, because I connected with the material so much to where, even I would never let it go just from that short film alone. in my mind, ideally, I would like to be musicalized in a much more broader sense, to where it would be, you know, on stage of some kind. So that's why I keep, you know, researching and doing more, because maybe there will be something more that with Donald's blessing, if he's out there watching.
We're putting it out in the universe.
Putting out in the universe to where it would be a full form musical.
So now, do you feel like this is your next evolution in?
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking about it lately, as far as, because I've been blessed. This is my the show that I'm in right now, Beautiful Noise, at the Broadhurst Theater. Little plug. This is my 9th Broadway show.
Wow.
So, and I've been blessed. I've been a part of wonderful productions. I've been a part of amazing companies, especially ensemble companies. That's where I've learned a lot of my trade, is just from working with amazing dancers and performers alongside them, creating the foundation for all these shows, because ensembles, without them, there is no show. And I've done so many now to where I'm like, you know, I'd like to continue on, but I know that there's another creative outlet for me that I'd like to pursue, and I know, you know, I know of a lot of people who have contributed, you know, from their creative standpoint. I look up to Tommy Tune, who is a wonderful artist who starred his shows, who also directed and choreographed his shows. I'd like to kind of follow in his footsteps. And then even with someone like George Cohan, who was like going back to like the 20s and, you know, and so forth, you know, who directed and starred in his shows too. So I would like to take a step away from in front of the table to behind the table to create that. And then if I can get back around to the other side of the table and do them both at the same time, that'd be nice.
Well, Night Fly was a great introduction to that then.
Well, yeah. And I have a couple other things that I won't necessarily,
okay.
spill as far as concepts and such.
How exciting.
Yeah. But I also write songs too, so that would be a great outlet to kind
Ooh.
of like, you know, put songs out
Something's coming soon.
Something.
We feel it brewing. Feel it brewing. All right. There was one last thing. Where did I put it? I put a whole... Oh, okay. I found it. And then we played the game. Okay. In 2018, you did an interview with Dance Spirit by Courtney Bowers. And I had to write this all down because I didn't want to mess it up. And they asked you some pretty good questions, like your guilty pleasures, and embarrassing moments, like falling into the pit.
Yes, that's right.
During Newsies, but you still hit your final pose.
Yes, I did.
But my favorite was that they asked you what your dream role would be. And one of them, because you listed quite a few. And I just want to reiterate, this was in 2018. And one of them, you said one of your dream roles would be either Arab or action in West Side Story. How's that for fucking manifesting?
And it came true.
How is that for fucking manifesting?
Well,
I'm telling you, I believe in that shit.
Well, at the time that I did that interview, obviously it was only within like maybe a few weeks, because this was when I was in Carousel, and this was in the summertime, and Justin Peck had choreographed Carousel, for which I was in. He won the Tony for choreography, best choreography. And then around that time is when he was starting to do some very early pre-production sessions for West Side Story. He was asked and commissioned to be the choreographer for the new movie adaptation that Steven Spielberg was directing. And I had already been working with him on Carousel, and I was asked to come in to work with him on some choreography. And through that experience, that's where I first met Steven.
Okay.
And then that began my audition process throughout that show, throughout that experience of auditioning for the movie. And then I read for dialogue, read some scenes as Arab, and I remember I only read dialogue, I think, twice for Arab, read some scenes, and the second time I remember there weren't really any other people that were reading for that role. So I was like, is this in the bag? Is this in the bag? Do I know? And then I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. I can't assume. I have to just do my job. So, and I went in, and it seemed like they were appreciative of what I did, and they thanked me, and then good news came that I was gonna do it.
Arab. So here's me, like, again, like, mind you, this is like 12:30 at night, right? So I'm like reading this article, and I'm on my phone. So I'm like switching tabs because I don't want to lose the article. So I had to switch tabs, then go to IMDb, and I was like, I think he played Arab. I'm pretty sure he played.
It was a dream. It was really just one of those, because I knew that was a character that I identified as far as from a stylistic standpoint. And there was a lot of, wisecracking sense of humor that I'm like, well, I can relate to that. And then Yeah, that it really came to fruition. And then at that time that I was doing, as I was auditioning for the movie, this was like the fall of 2019. So this is like a year. No, actually, no, I'm wrong. That was later on 2018. That was like that fall. I was on tour with Hello Dolly. I played Barnaby Tucker. So one of the principal roles. So I got to I had to go fly in from wherever I was in Chicago or to New York, going back and forth to try out for the movie.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a wild time, but it was one of those like unique experiences. And again, West Side Story. For those who haven't seen it, it's a great movie. I'm biased, but I know. But it's a really great movie for people who don't necessarily know about the original, who can appreciate the newest one. And that was another one of those everything experiences, like So You Think You Can Dance, to where it was like everything wrapped up in one emotionally and methodically, and everything. You really came out through that experience too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so we've gotten to the point of the show where we get to play a game.
Yay!
We did everything, dude.
Did we really?
Yeah.
I love that.
I got it all in.
I wanted to make sure that I got it all in for you because I know that you had so many things that you wanted to ask them. Like, I'm happy to jump in on any of these.
We got it all.
I like that.
Oh, the only thing we didn't say was that your family is a family of teachers. So your sister is, your parents are both teachers.
Yes, my parents are both teachers. My
sisters,
mom, my mom is administrator. Oh, no, actually, no, she's a language arts supervisor.
Okay.
She was in administration prior, then she became a language arts supervisor. My dad is an instructional aide and teacher, and then my sister's also a teacher as well. And then my brother is a music teacher.
He is a teacher.
So that's why education for so long when I went to Pace University.
Oh, we forgot to talk about that.
Well, I went there part-time because it was a little bit of Superman, to where I was like Clark Kent and Superman. I was a student by day, performer by night. So
I
I had
loved
8
what
years.
you said about that, though, because you got to actually utilize what you learned in real time.
Yes, because there were a lot of classes that I took at Pace that I didn't necessarily know or really study in, like Shakespeare and method acting and vocal training and such. So all that stuff, it was like instantly applied to my work. So it was like,
that was kind of cool.
Where a lot of students probably graduate from college and then it takes a second for them to kind of like, put this stuff into,
Yeah, what was I going to do with my history degree?
Yeah, well, not even that, but just like the techniques, because I was a BFA musical theater major. So like all the stuff that I learned, how soon could I put this stuff, on stage? And I had the blessing of already doing that 8 shows a week. So
that was awesome.
And I finally graduated after 8 years because I went part-time.
Good for
but
you.
it was worth it.
Yeah. You did it.
For a lot of people who I know, actually one of my friends, Tatiana Lofton, who's in the show with me on the Neil Diamond Show, back then she was like, we didn't see much of you. You were kind of like a myth. You were kind of like an urban legend. I'm like, oh, wow, yeah. Because it was kind of, I flew in and out of it because of my schedule. With I was in Newsies probably when I first started at Pace. Yeah, it's wild.
All right, so we did everything. I'm proud of me. We didn't digress too much either.
No, we were pretty. We stayed the course.
We did. Now we get to play a game, and I'm interested to see because, not for nothing, Steven Spielberg. It's going to be hard to try not to connect in like 2 degrees. So we get to play a game, 6 Degrees of Mindminx, where you name, hopefully, a celebrity, not someone so obscure that I would never be able to connect myself to. And you are my first degree of connection.
Yes.
So do you have somebody in mind?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Wait, everybody gets to help me though.
Oh wait, do I have to give you hints?
You can.
Okay.
You don't. It's not like let's stump mind me.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So it's a female.
Okay. Oh, but you could tell me the actual name of the.
Oh, I can tell you the actual person, really?
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Bette Midler.
Oh, yeah, but you're my first degree. You were in a play with her.
I know, but there's more to it. I thought there was more to it.
No. I just like.
Oh, another celebrity?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, like so.
Okay.
Let me give the example. So my last guest gave me Leo DiCaprio.
Okay.
And I had to connect myself to Leo.
Okay.
But like you already were in a play.
So it can be a celebrity that I necessarily haven't.
It shouldn't be someone that you have any direct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. All right, yeah, I think this will work. We're gonna give it a go.
Okay.
Okay. Gene Kelly.
Oh dear Lord, how am I supposed to do that?
Come on, you can do it. You can do it.
Gene Kelly.
And people who have been paying attention know that I've already, implemented some seeds. I've planted some
I
seeds.
know, but I don't. Okay, so you have to help then.
Oh yeah, I can help.
What you were in, but it's like, it should only be like 2 degrees. Because you were in, what was it, Carousel? What was it? No, help me out.
I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna help you out. So, I never worked with him direct, obviously.
Right.
But I was in Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain, yes.
And played the character of Don Lockwood.
Right.
Which he originated on film.
Okay. But I need to now connect myself to him.
Yes.
Direct. So like, there has to be another connection.
And you probably have another connection because you obviously know who it is. You know who that person is.
Steven Spielberg?
Oh.
Is it yes?
I'm trying to think. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if you're like.
Oh man. Well, okay. Hold on. Okay. Let's put Gene Kelly aside.
Okay.
Let's try one more.
Okay.
Let's try one more. Okay.
Gene Kelly. What other movies was Gene Kelly in as an older gentleman?
I don't know. As an older gentleman?
Yeah.
Well, there was an American in Paris. There was, what else did he do? He did Sing in the Rain. He did, he directed Hello Dolly.
Gene Kelly directed Hello Dolly?
With Barbra Streisand.
Okay. So there we go. So then Barbra Streisand. Were you in anything with Barbra Streisand?
That was not it.
Oh. But was she anything with Bette Midler? She's got to do something with Bette Midler.
Maybe. Oh, she probably did. She probably did something. I don't know off the top of my head though. But they were two competing artists at the time. They kind of were in the same musical genre.
Barbra Streisand was in what's the movie? I love that movie with is that Robert Redford?
Oh, The Way We Were?
The Way We Were.
Uh-huh.
So that's 2, right? So it's Gene Kelly, Barbra Streisand, Robert Redford.
Okay, so then Robert Redford. Robert Redford.
3.
Robert Redford directed a movie called Ordinary People with Mary Tyler Moore.
Okay.
Did you watch Mary Tyler Moore?
A little bit. Dude, I'm horrible at this. Mikey's supposed to be helping. He's enjoying watching me struggle. Mary Tyler Moore. I'm trying to think. Google it something. He's not helping me. Ordinary. What else? What else was he in? Robert Redford. Mary Tyler Moore.
Robert Redford was also in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
With who?
Paul Newman. Paul Newman was a voice in the movie Cars.
Okay. So now we're at 5. With who? Cars was with. Tell me who else.
Owen Wilson.
Who else?
Well, it was a Disney movie, so
I know.
Pixar.
I know. But we're at 5. You
Okay.
have to be 6.
I have to be 6. Well, it's a Disney thing, and I was in a Disney show called Newsies. Is that kind of 6?
No. You would have to have a direct connection.
Direct connection to Cars.
So Paul Newman.
Okay. So Gene Kelly directed Hello Dolly, the film, starring Barbra Streisand.
Which is a good one.
Barbra Streisand appeared. There's probably another thing that we could connect Barbra Streisand to, not Robert Redford. Okay, great. I know one.
Okay.
Barbra Streisand starred in Funny Girl.
Okay.
Which okay.
Wait, who was Barbra Streisand married to? What's his name?
James Not Elliot Gould. Elliot Gould was her first husband, I think. James
that was-
Brolin.
James Brolin. Elliot Gould might be a good one too. What was he in? He was in a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't know his resume now. But we're doing pretty good. I think we're doing pretty
Okay,
good.
so
Okay, so Gene Kelly directed a Hello Dolly starring
Yep.
Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand. We can go back to Robert Redford. We can do something with Funny Girl.
Okay.
Barbra Streisand was in Funny Girl,
Okay.
starring Omar Sharif.
Okay.
Omar Sharif. Didn't Omar Sharif star in Gigi as well?
Well, wasn't Omar Sharif also in like what's the one with Mel Gibson?
Oh, which one?
Like the.
I'm not related to Mel Gibson.
No, you're not. No, but like, wasn't he in what's the one with oh my gosh. Dear Lord, I should know.
I think we're doing good. Gene Kelly, Barbra Streisand, Omar Sharif, who starred in Gigi,
Okay.
which became a musical.
Okay.
That musical was choreographed by Josh Burgas.
Okay.
Josh and I did On the Town.
Okay, so then that's
That's
6 degrees.
There we go.
Gene Kelly, we did it.
Just for clarification. We're gonna do this one more time.
Okay.
Just for everyone to know. So Gene Kelly
Yep.
directed the 1969 or 68 film adaptation of the musical Hello Dolly starring Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand starred in Funny Girl, the movie adaptation with Omar Sharif.
Okay.
Omar Sharif starred in, if I'm correct, I think this is correct, I think he did, in the movie adaptation of Gigi,
Okay.
which became a musical.
Okay.
The musical was choreographed by Josh Burgas,
Okay.
and Josh Burgas worked with Jess LeProtto, or choreographed On the Town, which Jess LeProtto appeared in.
Wow. And that means you just connected yourself to Gene Kelly too.
Yeah. Wow. There we go.
That's pretty cool.
All right. I like that. Wow.
We did it. We
Pretty
did
good.
it.
It took some work, but it was
Yep,
worth it.
yep.
Is it?
You did most of the work. I just sat here.
That was great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was fun.
A year in the making.
A
we
year.
finally made it work.
Yes, we did.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do the hugs later. All right. So it's a brand new week, so go own it and mind your favorite minx and join us next time. We did it. We freaking did it.
Yeah.
Finally taking.
You're welcome.